Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Petra Međimurec and I am delighted to share our experiences with the dissemination and impact of GGS Croatia. Here, my name is in bold as I will be the one delivering this presentation. However, GGS Croatia has been a collaborative effort and I would like to acknowledge Ivan Čipin, who leads our national team. Our team has worked hard to ensure that the findings from GGS Croatia reach researchers and policymakers and contribute to important demographic discussions. Let's begin with a quick recap of how we conducted the survey. You may remember our last webinar in 2023 when data collection was still ongoing. Now, with the full dataset processed, we can present the complete picture. So, for Croatian GGS, we used a simple random sample of 18,000 individuals aged 18 to 54, drawn from the Ministry of Interior's residence data. The survey was conducted entirely online, building on a successful pilot study from 2018. In May 2023, we sent personalized invitation letters, followed by an unconditional cash incentive of 6.64 euros via postal money orders. Originally, this was a nice round number of 50 Croatian kuna, but Croatia switched to the euro on January 1st, 2023. The survey remained open until mid-July, with reminders sent in late May and early June. To boost participation, we also ran a Facebook and Instagram campaign. We achieved a 41.6% response rate, and that is relative to the gross sample size of 18,000 individuals. I would say this is an impressive result for a web survey. With data collection complete, we shifted our focus to dissemination, starting with a major event last March. So, on March 19th, 2024, we presented our preliminary findings at the National and University Library in Zagreb. The event was organized by the Central State Office for Demography and Youth, which has since become a ministry, alongside the Faculty of Economics and Business at the University of Zagreb. It brought together policymakers, researchers, and the media, highlighting the importance of demographic research. Opening speeches were given by government representatives, and we also received video messages from Dubravka Šuica, who was at the time the Vice President of the European Commission for Democracy and Demography, and of course from Anne Gauthier. Ivan and I gave a 2-hour presentation, yet it still felt like too little time for the two of us. And here, circled in the photo, you can see us both together with Dario, the youngest member of our national team. For this event, we designed a series of policy brochures, and some of you may have already had the opportunity to see them. We covered key topics such as childcare responsibilities, immigration intentions, fertility plans and ideals, young adults living with parents, and weekend work. You can see examples on this slide and on the following slide. Later in this presentation, I will showcase some of these findings in more detail, in English and with official data. Here, they are shown in their original form, in a way they were printed out and distributed to interested attendees. Now, let's look at media coverage. This slide shows a newspaper headline about our event. It reads something like, "Here's how many young Croatians actually live with their parents." And at the top, in red, it says the country's blood count, suggesting that our findings revealed something important about Croatia. The article itself highlighted GGP as a key European social science infrastructure for providing international data. Now, finally, also data for Croatia. While we were glad to receive media attention, it wasn't as widespread as we had hoped. Since the event took place during election season, it was political topics that dominated the news. Still, the coverage we did get helped spark discussions on important demographic issues. The GGS Croatia data was finally officially released just before the European Population Conference in June 2024. And along with the dataset, we prepared a technical paper detailing the data collection process, study design, incentives, and other key aspects relevant for using the dataset. This, of course, promotes transparency, and it facilitates the effective use of GGS Croatia data in demographic research. In case I overlooked any important aspects of the Croatian survey, you can likely find them in this paper, cited in the bottom left of the slide. We invite all users of Croatian data to take a look. Okay, so far, we've covered some of the key milestones of GGS Croatia, perhaps already familiar to some of you if you've been keeping tabs. Now, let's move on to some of the most recent, ongoing, and planned activities as we continue building on this work. So, our team actively promotes the use of GGS Croatia data whenever possible, particularly by participating in conferences and by engaging in public discussions and debates. Let me give you one example. This is my participation in a conference organized by RODA, that's RODA, an acronym for Parents in Action, in Croatian, of course. The event took place in Zagreb on December 3rd, 2024, meaning approximately 2 months ago from now. Just so you know, RODA is a Croatian civil society organization, and the name of the conference was Parents Between Personal and Societal, as shown on the left of the slide in Croatian. This event brought together experts from various fields to discuss contemporary challenges of parenting and to provide new insights into demographic changes, social policies, and increasing parental stress. The aim of the conference was to connect decision makers, support providers, the scientific community, the civil sector, and, of course, parents themselves, including vulnerable groups. The idea was to exchange information, research, and experiences. The conference brought together around 350 participants, which I believe reflects a strong interest in these topics. I had the opportunity to present findings from GGS Croatia, and GGS topics fit wonderfully into the conference. GGS data provided valuable insights into parenting and family life in Croatia. I showcased some findings on fertility intentions and ideals, about preconditions to having a child or more children, and the challenges of balancing work and family life. Next, we will take a closer look at some of the insights that attracted particular attention. Ongoing disparities in the division of childcare tasks between mothers and fathers, which we also highlighted in our policy brochures, and findings on intensive parenting in Croatia. So this slide presents findings on how mothers and fathers divide childcare tasks in Croatian households. The charts show the reported division of responsibilities for several childcare tasks among respondents in heterosexual couples. The tasks include dressing the child, staying with the child when the child is ill, playing with the child, helping with homework, and putting the child to bed. Perhaps unsurprisingly, mothers take on most of these tasks more frequently than fathers. In the charts, the figures sum to 100% by task, and for mothers and fathers separately. So, for example, 63% of mothers report that they are always or usually the ones dressing the children, and 57% of fathers report that their partners always or usually do this task. Here, an interesting pattern seems to emerge. Fathers are somewhat more likely than mothers to report an equal division of responsibilities. This might suggest different perceptions of task sharing between parents. Also, among the listed tasks, playing with children appears to be the most equally shared between mothers and fathers. Now, let's move on to the next slide, where we explore another key parenting issue: intensive parenting in Croatia. So, in addition to the core topics covered in GGS, the Croatian survey included several non-core items related to intensive parenting. Understanding this concept is important as it highlights the various demands placed on parents and how societal expectations shape family life. The topic received attention at the conference in December, so fortunately we had interesting data to share. The donut charts show responses to 5 statements on intensive parenting from the Croatian GGS survey. The first statement suggests that parents never get a mental break from their children, even when they're physically apart. The second refers to the idea that beyond regular school, children should participate in extra lessons and activities for stimulation. The third statement explores whether raising children is seen as a highly demanding job. The fourth suggests that children should be the center of their parents' attention. And finally, the fifth statement argues that children's needs should always come before their parents' needs. Note that there is almost universal consensus among Croatian parents that children benefit from additional lessons and activities beyond regular school. Additionally, a large majority of parents agree that child rearing is highly demanding, and most agree that children should be the center of their parents' attention. However, opinions are somewhat more mixed on whether parents never get a mental break and whether a child's needs always should come first, indicating that parents perhaps experience these pressures differently. The data also points to some gender differences, with mothers more likely to report that parenting is mentally exhausting and demanding, reflecting perhaps their greater involvement in childcare, as we saw in the previous slide. However, mothers are also less likely than fathers to believe that children should always come first or be the center of attention. This may suggest that despite their heavier parenting load, mothers recognize the importance of balancing parental responsibilities with other aspects of life. Of course, this is just the first step in a more detailed investigation of these topics. We certainly have plans to expand on this work. Okay, so beyond presenting our findings for Croatia, we are also trying to contribute to broader discussions. We welcome any collaborations with other national teams, and we have been in touch with some. Recently, for example, we were contacted by the Polish national team, who took interest in our policy brochure on emigration intentions. Given this interest, we decided to expand the brochure to include a comparative perspective, incorporating data from multiple GGS Round 2 countries. This is an ongoing analysis that I am currently working on, aiming to provide an international context to this interesting topic. On the next slide, I'll show you data specifically for young people aged 18 to 34, comparing their intentions to move to another country within the next 3 years. How does Croatia compare to other countries? Well, let's find out. This slide presents data on emigration intentions among young people, again 18 to 34-year-olds, comparing Croatia to other GGS Round 2 countries. This chart shows the proportion of young adults based on their intentions to move abroad. So those who definitely or probably plan to emigrate are shaded in red. Those who are unsure about their plans appear in gray. And lastly, those who do not intend to emigrate, either definitely or probably, are shown in shades of green. The countries are sorted by the proportion of youth expressing positive emigration intentions. That is, those who definitely or probably plan to leave within the next 3 years. In Croatia, less than 1 in 10 young people intend to emigrate, which actually contrasts with some claims often heard in public discussions. Also, Croatia has a relatively large share of young people who are unsure about their plans compared to other countries. Of course, comparisons like these provide a broader context for understanding youth migration dynamics across different countries. And now, let's take a brief look at what factors might be related to these intentions. So we were inspired to dive deeper into this topic after a key finding from the Croatian GGS pilot study, showing that life satisfaction plays a major role in migration intentions. With the new dataset, we tested this again, and the conclusion still holds. So in Croatia, people who intend to move abroad tend to report lower life satisfaction on average. This pattern is not unique to Croatia. As you can see in this chart, the same trend appears in most other countries. So lower life satisfaction is linked to higher emigration intentions. However, there are some interesting exceptions, particularly Denmark, where migration decisions seem to be influenced more by other factors rather than life satisfaction. Of course, more detailed analysis is needed to understand why these patterns differ across countries. What we're showing here is just descriptive data, and we're still exploring this further. For Croatia specifically, additional calculations indicate that life satisfaction continues to influence migration intentions even after controlling for factors such as age, gender, and education. Among young people, those who are extremely dissatisfied with life have an estimated probability of emigrating that is over 20 percentage points higher than those who are extremely satisfied with life. This comes from a simple model that might still need some refinement, and we are actively working on this. Okay, next, let's move on to some other dissemination ideas we have been thinking about. So, we have been considering the idea of regularly publishing data briefs on our website, the site of our small association, the Center for Longitudinal Population Studies. These briefs would be designed to be short, easy to understand, and engaging, making them accessible and appealing to both the general public and policymakers. They would also feature interactive charts, for example, using Data Wrapper. While my slides today show static versions, the website would include interactive visuals. So I recently started working on the first brief, which explores how people in Croatia and other GGS Round 2 countries met their first cohabiting partner. This is particularly interesting given how relationship formation has changed over time and how it connects to broader demographic trends. So on the next 2 slides, I'll walk you through some preliminary findings. This slide looks at how the way people meet their first cohabiting partner has changed over time in Croatia. The chart shows trends across different 5-year birth cohorts, starting with people born between 1971 and 1975, and finishing with people born between 1991 and 1995. I chose this range to facilitate comparison with other countries. The chart highlights shifts in where and how people form relationships. So earlier generations were more likely to meet their first cohabiting partner in public places, such as bars, nightclubs, and dance clubs, or through mutual friends. For example, in older cohorts, more than 30% of people met their first cohabiting partner in a public place, and bars, nightclubs, or dance clubs in particular. However, over time, we see a notable decline in meeting partners in public places and a growing trend toward online dating and digital connections. This shift reflects broader social and technological changes, including the rise of dating apps and social media. Here, it is also important to note that in younger cohorts, a significant proportion has never cohabited. In fact, in the 1991 to 1995 birth cohort, more than a third have never lived with a partner. This is important to keep in mind when interpreting these trends, as relationship formation timelines may be shifting, meaning some younger individuals may cohabit later in life, so these patterns may change. We may want to follow this up in subsequent waves. So on the next slide, we will take a closer look at how Croatia compares to other GGS Round 2 countries in terms of meeting online. In the charts, Croatia is highlighted in red and also shown as a dotted red-lined comparison in each plot. This makes it easy to see how Croatia's trends align or differ from those in other countries. One finding is that the rise of meeting partners online is even more noticeable in other countries compared to Croatia. While online dating has increased in Croatia, the shift is less pronounced than in some other contexts, where online platforms have become even a dominant way to meet partners. I also performed calculations for some additional countries, but I ultimately decided on a simpler display for clarity. The conclusions, however, remain the same. The trend of online meeting is stronger in many other countries than in Croatia. I find this topic fascinating and also underexplored in the European context. So hopefully a short analysis will be available on our website soon and will eventually expand into a full research paper. I am looking more into this these days, and we are still discussing possible changes to our approach. Okay, so these were just a few examples of how we've been working to promote, share, and of course, analyze GGS Croatia data. We are doing our best to make sure the findings reach the right people, whether that's researchers, policymakers, or the general public. We're trying to keep the data visible and useful. Of course, there's always more to do, but we are excited about the progress so far. Now, let's move on to the final part of this presentation. What's next for GGS Croatia? So looking ahead, we have several plans for how GGS Croatia will continue to be used and expanded. So on the academic side, I teach a course that's called Survey Data Analysis at the Faculty of Economics and Business. And next academic year, this course will be offered in the winter semester as an elective course. The GGS teaching dataset is perfect for it. It makes a great resource for hands-on learning. And I'm also considering integrating short analysis into my other courses, for example, like demography. Also, I already have some student candidates planning to use GGS for their thesis. This is still only a few for now, but I expect this number to grow. Beyond teaching, the next step is moving from promoting the data to publishing with the data. You saw we have plenty of work in progress and we have even more ideas, some also referring to non-core items from Croatian GGS. We also have plans to organize workshops for policymakers, making sure GGS Croatia is used as a tool for evidence-based decision making. One key area where it can have a real impact is in monitoring the success of Croatia's demographic revitalization strategy. And of course, to make that possible, we will need further waves of data. We have wave 2 planned for 2026 and wave 3 planned for 2029. So I guess you will be hearing from us more. And that brings us to the end of my presentation. I would like to thank all of you for your time. If you have any questions or would like to discuss any of the topics further, you can contact either me or Ivan or the both of us via email. Our email addresses are shown here on the slide. Have a nice day and goodbye, everyone.